Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 502 Model College for Girls. Assalamu alaikum 9th class. I hope you are fine and in the best of your health and spirits. Today is our third lecture of English. I am your teacher Miss Aisha Nazir and I welcome you all to the online class. Dear students, today we are going to start unit number 5. Unit number 5 is a poem. The name of the poem is Daffodils. This poem, Daffodils, has been written by William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth is a great worshipper of nature and his passion for nature is well known. William Wordsworth is a true worshipper and ardent of nature, or the lover of nature, that it was a creed for him. According to him, nature is a teacher and preacher. In this poem, William Wordsworth has presented before us a very healthy, ennobling, purifying, and enduring impact of nature on human beings. Some of the famous poems by William Wordsworth to be read and enjoyed are To the Cuckoo, Lucy Gray, The World is Too Much with Us, The 2 April Morning, Solitary Reaper, and We Are 7. So this poem, Daffodils, is a very beautiful poem, and in this poem, the poet also talks about the beauty of nature, and all his poems are basically based on nature. So this very poem, Daffodils, is also based on nature, as he is a true worshipper and ardent lover of nature. So we are going to start Daffodils. I am going to read it and then I am also going to explain the stanzas. So it means that I am not only going to give the reading of the stanzas, but I am also going to explain each stanzas to you. This poem has got 4 stanzas. Now you have to come to page number 51. Stanza number 1. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Second stanza. Continuous as the star that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 eyes saw at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Stanza number 3. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what well the show to me had brought. Stanza number 4, which is the last stanza of the poem. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Students, I hope you have opened your books. I will read the stanzas of the poem and then I am going to explain each stanza. Stanza number 1. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. I wandered means move about, to go from one place to another. Floats, moves. Vales, valley. At once, suddenly. Crowd, a huge gathering. A host, a large number. Beside, by the side of. Beneath, underneath, or under. Fluttering, moving, and dancing in the breeze. So in the very first stanza, the poet, who is also the speaker of the poem, tells his own experience of life about nature. In the very first stanza and the very first word that the poet has used, that is first person pronoun. The poet has used first person pronoun I, and there is a purpose behind it. And what is the purpose? That the poet has used first person pronoun because poet wants to remind the readers that this is his personal experience that the poet is narrating. So I wandered lonely as a cloud, the poet tells his experience, the poet who is also the speaker, and tells that one day he was wandering. Wandering means roamed about, like to go from one place to another all alone as a cloud. So the poet tells about himself that how he was going from one place to another, and he was quite lonely, he was alone, just like a cloud. So the poet compares himself with a cloud, as the cloud that moves high over valleys and hills. Then all of a sudden, the poet says that all at once, which means suddenly, the poet saw, what did the poet see? The poet saw a crowd of golden daffodils. Crowd means a large number, and golden daffodils, the color of the daffodil was yellow. So the poet says that all at once the poet saw crowd of golden daffodils. And where did he see crowd of golden daffodils? By the side of the lake, under the tree. Where they were grown by the side of the lake, under the tree. So daffodils were grown by the side of the lake under a tree, and what they were doing, they were fluttering. Fluttering means like moving and dancing due to the effect of the wind. So the poet is also impressed by the beauty of the daffodils, that he says that all the daffodils were moving very joyfully. They were moving and dancing due to the effect of the wind. Stanza number 2, continuous as a star that shine. Continuous means endless. As a star that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. Twinkle means shine. Milky Way, galaxy. They stretched. Stretch means overextended. In never ending line. Never ending line means in a long line. Along the margin of a bay. Margin means border. Bay means lake. 10,000 saw I at a glance. Glance means at one look. Tossing, moving their heads in sprightly dance. Sprightly means in a joyful dance. So in the second stanza, the poet has used first person pronoun again, as the poet says, I at a glance. So the poet has again used the first person pronoun again to remind the readers that he is narrating his own personal experience. As we have observed in the very first stanza, the poet has used the second form of verb. In the second stanza, the poet has also used the second form of verb. So the poet here in the second stanza compares the daffodils with the stars. As the poet says, continuous as the star that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. So the poet compares the daffodils with the star, as the stars are spread in a long line and twinkle or shine and make Milky Way or galaxy in the sky. Similarly, the daffodils are stretched in a long line looking like stars as they shine, or they are grown in an endless line along the lake. So the daffodils are in great number. In the same way, the stars are in great number. The daffodils are stretched in never-ending line. In the same way, the stars are spread in the sky in a long line, and they make a Milky Way. And daffodils make an endless line. So the poet has given a comparison of stars with daffodils. Along, and where they are grown along the margin of a bay. Margin means the border of a bay. Bay means lake. So this is how the poet has made the comparison. Again the poet says, 10,000 saw I at a glance. So this is poet's estimation. As the poet says that how many daffodils that he has seen 10,000 daffodils at one look. So this is completely the poet estimation. The poet has not counted the number of flowers. Likewise, stars are uncountable. As the poet says that he saw a crowd or host of golden daffodils, that means that he has seen a lot of daffodils grown by the side of the lake under a tree. So it means that as we cannot count the stars, in the same way we cannot count daffodils. So again the poet mentions the movement of the daffodils as human being moves their heads and dance. This is the human quality. Tossing their heads in sprightly dance. This is the human quality. So I hope you have understood how the poet has made the comparison between daffodils and star. And then again the poet says that daffodils were moving their heads in sprightly dance. Like this is the human quality. Like human beings move their heads and they dance. This is the human quality. Okay, now we are going to moving towards the third stanza. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling wave in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. So in the third stanza, again the poet has used second form of verb and the poet has used first person pronoun. As the poet says, I gazed and gazed. And what is the reason the poet is using the first person pronoun? Just to remind the readers that this is his personal experience of visiting daffodils. So in the third stanza, as the poet has used the second form of verb, the poet says that there are waves and these waves were also twisting and turning joyfully. But at this time or at this moment, the movement of the daffodil is more beautiful than the sparkling or shining waves. As in the third stanza, you can see the waves beside them dance. The waves are also dancing. As in the second stanza, the poet was saying, the daffodils were tossing their heads. They were moving their heads. They were dancing. So waves were also there because the daffodils were grown by the lake. So there were waves. And the waves are also taking twists and turns. They were also dancing. But the performance or the dance the daffodils had performed or did is more beautiful than the sparkling or twinkling waves in glee. Glee means happiness. Outdid means they did the best one. Surpassed. A poet could not but means except. Like the poet is happy. The poet has no other way to do anything. What could the poet do? The poet is very happy in such a jocund means lively, joyful company. So when the poet is in the company of daffodil, the poet is very happy and he says that he feels so much excited in the beautiful company of the daffodils that he kept on looking at the beautiful sides of daffodils for a long time. And this happiness of the poet is inexpressible. The poet is unable to express it because this gave him an immense pleasure. This gives him immense happiness. As the poet says, I gazed and gazed. The poet kept on looking at this beautiful sight of daffodils that he says that he did not have another thing to do. What he could do, he could only look at the beautiful sight of the daffodils. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. Like the poet is so much happy in the company of the daffodils. Like this is the happiness that the daffodils has given to him when the poet is in the company of daffodils. The fourth stanza, for oft means often. When on my couch I lie, couch means sofa, I lie, in vacant, in free or in free time, when the poet is completely free, or in pensive mood, meditative mood, or in imaginative mood. They flash means come before, that inward eye means imagination or in thought, which is the bliss of solitude. Bliss means blessing. Solitude means loneliness when the poet is alone. And then my heart with pleasure fills, pleasure means happiness, and dances with the daffodils. So in the last stanza of the poem, the poet tells us his routine. And how can we say that the poet is telling us his routine? Because in the fourth stanza or in the last stanza, you can see the poet has used the first form of verb. And in the first, second and third stanza, the poet has used the second form of verb because the poet has told us his experience. What did he see in the past? Now the poet is telling us the routine. So as we have done present indefinite tense, and in present indefinite tense, what do we use? We use present indefinite tense to talk about our regular action, our routine, our habits. So now the poet tells us his routine, that whenever he lies on his bed, whenever he lies on his couch, whether he is free or having no activity, or in imaginative mood or meditative mood, the beautiful sight of the daffodil come before his eyes. As he says, whenever he is on his couch or sofa, he lies, whether he is free or in thoughtful mood, in meditative mood, whether he is sad or happy, the beautiful sight of the daffodils come before his eyes. And which is the bliss of solitude? As if you could remember, in the very first stanza, the poet has used the word alone or lonely. And in the last stanza, the poet has used the word solitude. In the first stanza, the poet has used the word lonely, and in the last stanza, the poet has used the word solitude, which means all by himself lonely. But this loneliness is a great blessing for the poet, because he clarifies this. This is the blessing, which is the bliss of solitude, means loneliness is a great blessing. Whether the poet is sad or happy or in a meditative mood, the beautiful scene of daffodil come before his eyes, and this is the blessing for the poet whenever he is alone or in solitude. And when such beautiful sight of daffodil come before his eyes, his heart starts dancing with the daffodils. And in the second last line of the stanza, the poet has used possessive pronoun my. And then my heart with pleasure fill and dances with the daffodils. And this possessive pronoun, again the poet has used, that is my, to remind the reader that this is his personal experience. So this was all about the explanation of the poem Daffodils. Okay students, now we are going to quickly do the words meaning, as I have already told you the meanings during my explanation. Wandered means roamed about or moved without aim. Lonely, alone. Floats, move slowly. Vales, valleys. All at once, suddenly. Crowd, a large gathering. Host, a huge number. Beside, by the side of. Beneath, underneath or under. Fluttering, moving sideways. Breeze, light wind. Over, on the top of. Continuous, endless. Twinkle, sparkle or shine brightly. Milky Way, galaxy. Stretched, overextended, margin, border, bay, lake. At a glance, in one look. Tossing, moving upward. Sprightly, lively or joyfully. Outdid, surpassed or did better than. Sparkling, shining brightly. Glee, joy. But, except. Gay, happy. Jocund, joyous or happy. Gaze, looked for a long time. Wealth, richness. Oft, often. Couch, sofa, vacant, empty or free. Pensive, meditative or thoughtful. Inward, imagination, mind or thought. Flash, come before, bliss, blessing. Solitude, pleasant loneliness, pleasure, amusement or happiness. Students, as we have done the explanation of the poem, now we have to do the analysis of the poem. Because we have done the explanation of the poem in a very simple words, but we have to see how the poem has been structured. So for the analysis of the poem, we have to do the next point. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Students, I have highlighted some of the words at the end of every sentence. You can see, as in the very first stanza, cloud and then hills, crowd, daffodils, trees and breeze. And then in the second stanza, continuous as the star that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretch in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. In the second stanza, shine way, line, bay, glance and dance. So students, why I have highlighted all these words? Because there are some resemblance of sound in the last word of every sentence. That is why I have given the same color, and there is a reason behind this. First of all, we are going to recognize which word has the same pronunciation. For example, in the first sentence, cloud and crowd, and then in the second and fourth, hills and daffodils, and then in the last two lines of the stanza, which becomes the couplet, trees and breeze, because these two words has got the same pronunciation. Next, we are going to do the second stanza. In second stanza, the words like shine and line has got the same pronunciation, way and bay, and then glance and dance has got the same pronunciation. Moving towards the third stanza, the waves beside them dance, but they and gay has got the same pronunciation. Out did the sparkling waves in glee in such a jocund company. Glee and company has got the same pronunciation. And then in the last two lines of the stanza, I gazed and gazed but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. Thought and brought has got the same pronunciation. Fourth stanza, which is the last stanza, for oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. So lie and eye has got the same pronunciation, and mood and solitude has got the same pronunciation. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. So last two lines and the last two words has got the same pronunciation, like fills and daffodils. I hope you have understood up till now. Okay, now students, we have to do the rhyme scheme of the stanza, as I have told you about the same pronunciation in the first stanza of the words. As cloud and crowd has got the same pronunciation, so we are going to give alphabet A to them because they have got the same pronunciation. Cloud and crowd, so we have given the same pronunciation and the same letter like A. And in the second line, hills and daffodils, and these two words has got the same pronunciation. That is why we have given the letter B to these words. And the last two lines and the last words, trees and breeze, has got the same pronunciation. That is why we have given the alphabet C to them, because these two words has got the same pronunciation. So this is called rhyme scheme, in which if we have got the same pronunciation, we are going to give alphabet accordingly. Stanza number 2, continuous as a star that shine. In the second stanza, shine and line has got the same pronunciation. That is why we have given alphabet A to them. Way and bay, so we have given B to them. And then last two lines has got the same pronunciation, glance and dance, so we have given C alphabet to them. So this is called rhyme scheme. Stanza number 3, they and then gay has got the same pronunciation, so we have given alphabet A. Glee and company has got the same, so we have given B. And last two lines like thought and brought has got the same pronunciation, so we have given the alphabet C to them. Rhyme scheme of the stanza number 4.